It's time for Radio Blab with Master Mel, the radio video podcast brought to you live. Join host Melodee Meyer and her special guests as they discuss personal mastery and what it takes to create a life you want in a body you love, doing work that matters. Here's your host, Master Mel.
Oh my gosh. I'll never be able to hear that the same. Thank you very much, Jenna. I appreciate that. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. It is my pleasure, of course, once again, to be here with someone very, very special to me. Now, sometimes I have a guest that I've never met before, and sometimes I have a guest that I have met before, and that falls into this falls into that category today, because I have not only met this person, but I consider this person a personal friend because she is just way too funny to make an enemy of. Okay, you do not want this person making fun of you in any way. You will be ripped to shreds. But I want to tell you a little bit about our guest today, all right? Her name is Jenna McCarthy. She's an internationally published writer. She's a TED speaker, relationship expert, former radio personality, and the author of several books, including a really long title, so bear with me. Ready? If It Was Easy, call the whole damn thing a honeymoon. Living with and loving the TV-addicted, sex-obsessed, not-so-handy man you married. And another one, there's actually several, but I'm only going to name two. I've Still Got It. I just can't remember where I put it. Awkwardly True Tales from the Far Side of 40. Her writing has appeared in more than 60 magazines, on dozens of websites, and in several anthologies, including the popular Chicken Soup series. Jenna's TED Talk, What You Don't Know About Marriage, which is too funny, you just have to watch it, has been viewed by millions around the world and inadvertently launched the speaking arm of her colorful career. Let's give it up for Jenna McCarthy. Yay.
Where's that clap track? Come on.
I know, where's the clap track? Oh, here we go. Let's there's the cheering crowd for you, my girlfriend.
Stop. Thank you. I'm listening to you.
Oh, no, really stop. Okay, there we go.
Don't stop. I'm listening to you read bits of my bio, and I think I should just shorten it to Jenna is old. Done a lot of stuff because she's like, I'm not to be really old to do it. I'm old. Okay, but anyways, go ahead.
No, you're not that old, since I know what old is.
Whatever.
Oh God. I got to tell you though, when I was preparing for having you on today, I was laughing a lot. And I know we're going to have fun today because we're going to talk a little bit about how to bring humor into your business, regardless of what it is you do for a living. You're a writer, you're a professional writer, an author, and a very funny author, but I'm sure not everything that you've written in your life was with that idea of wanting to be funny or looking to be funny, correct?
Dead wrong.
Dead wrong. Everything you've written ever is about being funny.
Okay. I have written everything. Let me just back up. I was in magazine writing for 20 years, and I had a car column. I had a sex column. I was a fashion and beauty. I covered fashion and beauty. I went to the shows, and I would have to come home. If I couldn't make it at least clever in some way, my job as a writer is not just to impart information. I believe for my passion is making the delivery system the most palatable it possibly can. For me, that generally means with humor. I mean, people used to write me letters and say, I just sat in a doctor's office and read an article about LASIK. I have 20/20 vision, but the first line was funny, so I read the whole damn thing. I'm like, yeah. Right. So I just
you need to make it entertaining, and the way you do that is through humor.
Yeah.
So what is it like to have? There's having to be funny, isn't there?
Wait, you froze up for a second. Say that again.
Oh, there's a pressure that comes from having to be funny. Like, can you do that? It's like, be funny now, go.
Well, I never felt it before. Thanks, Mel. No, I don't feel the pressure to be funny. I like to be funny. I like to, whether it's calling out my own self, like that's kind of one of my things is like, I'm not a mean-spirited funny at all. I'm not a, let's poke fun at Mel over here and point out the toilet paper on her shoe. I'm gonna be like, dude, look at the toilet paper on my shoe. I'll throw myself under the bus every time. So, and that being the case, there's no shortage of fodder for ways I can make fun of myself. So not a lot of pressure.
Well, I took a comedy class once and it was so painful. It was so painful because it was like, because I like to have humor in what I do as well. But when it came down to like having to be funny, that was like, it wasn't fun and it wasn't funny.
I don't think you can teach funny though. I mean, I've never taken a comedy class. It sounds not funny. It sounds painful to watch somebody try to explain now this, what I'm about to do, this is going to be funny. But then this other, I mean, that sounds awful. I don't think it can be taught.
Yeah, no. I think it can be taught or at least understood a little bit, but I think you're right. I think there's like a way to look at life and to observe it and to find the funny things in it, because its books are hilarious. I mean, you are so funny, Jenna, and just because you observe things, and even if you're not telling a joke, you're just observing what actually is, and by bringing it to our attention as the readers, it's just hilarious. What's your favorite book?
Oh, you know what?
Written.
Well, thank you for asking. This is my latest novel. Is it backwards to everybody?
No, it's only backwards to you.
Oh, okay.
We can see it.
I wrote nonfiction for a really long time. I love my marriage book, the one with the really long title that you said. I have the midlife one. But this is my second novel, and I really like writing novels because, well, first of all, because I ran out of my own stories about my life to tell.
Your husband must like that too.
No, this is a true story. The working title for my first novel was "It's Not About You," because it took me a couple of months to come up with the idea for this novel. And I sat down at dinner one night and I'm like, oh my God, I got it. And my husband's like, you got what? And I said, I figured it out. I know what my story is for my novel. And he was like, cool. And I said, don't you want to know what it is? And he's like, no, it's not about me. I don't even care. I was like, oh, it's not about you. That would be a really good name. It's not about you. But of course it was totally about him because all fiction is thinly veiled, that's my life. So,
but you can get away with saying it's not true.
Yeah, it's not you. The asshole husband in that book is totally not you. I don't know why you would think it was you. That's weird. That's your issue if you think that. And his bitchy wife, that's not me either. It's just, there might be some similarities because that happens.
Oh my God. I need to ask you a very important question that I'm sure everyone I know. What is it that you had for breakfast this morning?
What did I have for breakfast?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, the scraps off of my kids' plates. I made the one, her sunny side up egg, and she never eat. I don't make breakfast. I eat what everybody else doesn't eat. I basically had an egg, a little bit of bread, and some raspberries. The ones that were deemed too mushy for human consumption if you're under the age of 13, but over 13, they're perfectly acceptable. They were fine. The blue stuff, you just flick it right off. It's fine.
You don't have to make your own plate. You can actually just eat what's left over there. No problem.
Okay, in the morning though, my husband calls me a whirling dervish because I get up at like 4:30, no joke. And people are gonna hate me, but whatever. I go to bed at 9. I'm so boring. You know that, Mel. Bill's like, do you want to go out? I'm like, at 6:30, I do. You bed by 8. Then I get up crazy early. I work for a little bit. I exercise. I come home. It's still dark out. And then I start doing the regime. So I make everybody's breakfast, everybody's lunch, start the laundry, like do all the stuff I'm going to do. And literally my kids make fun of me every day because I call it my triangle in the kitchen. And hell hath no fury like a woman whose triangle is being intercepted in some way. I will knock you down. I will literally knock you down moving through that triangle. So yeah, I don't have time for me to sit down and eat. I'm like, da, 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 da.
Yeah. Since they're not going to eat their breakfast, you can just finish that up for them.
I know they're not going to. So why would I wait? Why would I make my own? Then I'd be like, oh, I have to eat that too. That would be annoying.
So I feel like with looking at your book that I get a little peek inside of your life. And there's a lot there about Joe, your husband, Joe.
Yeah.
Is that why you've gone to novels now? It's because you don't want to now bring your kids into the picture? That
was not intentional for sure. But obviously I have two daughters, they're 11 and 13, and believe you me, I can no longer, like, if I hold up my phone to take a picture of them, first thing they say is, "Not going to post it on Instagram?" No, I will not post it on Instagram or Facebook. Like, I have to get like written approval to even take a picture. God forbid I tell a story about them. Like, I'm actually getting a little sweaty right now because talking about them not wanting me to talk about them might, in fact, be a breach of contract. I'm not sure.
It's in the gray area
of them. They're not listening. I mean, I don't want to exploit them. It sucks not being able to sometimes because they're funny as hell. I mean, everything out of their mouths is funny, and it would be really great fodder. But you know, I wouldn't want my every move documented by my mother. I mean, for God's sake,
in real time. Can you bring that? Yeah, can't we bring that up later?
Yeah. We don't want that. Well, you broke up again. I didn't hear what you said.
Oh, I was going to say we can't document it in real time, but maybe we could bring it up later. Maybe. Are you recording any of that stuff?
We'll see. I mean, they're still like they're at that age. They are at the peak of the age I like to call my mom is so effing embarrassing. And they're like right on the cusp of that. So even like you should see. I mean, I'm like, okay, guys, are you ready to go to school? I get this. They're like trying to decide, are you, should I not wear this? Is this bad? Do you want the hair up? Do you hat? No hat. Okay, no hat. I will not wear the hat. Like, is it okay if I inhale and then exhale? Or should I just hold that down? Okay, I'm gonna shut that down. I won't make eye contact with anybody. Just get in, get out, Mom. Get in, get out.
Well, but you're leaving us hanging. You know that, right? I mean, we get through the baby stage, we get the baby thing all wired in with from your books, and we'll go through them in a minute. But then there's so much that parents need to learn, or actually maybe get out or experience through your eyes to continue that journey. Don't you think?
That will have to happen later. It really will. Are you like, did you just kiss me?
No. Somebody actually gave me props right there. So there
God, that's cute.
Isn't that nice of him? And so he gives you some too. Okay, so let's go through the books just so people get an idea of let's talk about your adult books, these ones that I'm referring to, like the Parent Trip and so forth. Okay. So what book came first?
The very first book, I did some ghostwriting before I wrote my own books, but my very first book was called Parent Trip from High Heels and Parties to High Chairs and Potties. Did I do that right? Yeah. High heels to high chairs. I can't remember which order. See, that will explain one of my later titles, whenever I have no idea what I'm doing anymore, and I can't remember where my car is when I go to Trader Joe's. But no, it legit. Okay, you said we could be like adult here. We're all adults here.
You can be adults.
Okay, so I get home with this baby, and I was not like a teenage bride. I mean, I was well into my 30s when I had my first kid, and I bring her home, and first thing I'm breastfeeding, and I'm like, holes in the sides of those things? Like, this would have been good information to have. I don't even know how this works. And I had stockpiled diapers for my baby, right? Because your baby needs diapers. I didn't know I was going to need a diaper. I needed a diaper after giving birth. I didn't know this. This is
nobody told you.
Nobody told me. I have an older sister. I had a mother. I mean, I had a lot of friends because I was old that did this before me. literally on like going through my Rolodex. That's how old I was. Going, did you know about the holes in the sides of the nipples? You knew that? I felt like somebody should just put all this new information into a book, lest you be ambushed, right? I mean, everything from like, my husband and I were considering names for the baby, and we'd tell people, and like literally, no, name a name. Scarlett. Oh, yeah, I know a stripper named Scarlett. Keep that shit to yourself. I just told you I might name my baby that. I mean, somebody had a dog named Piper. Well, so that's off the table for all of ever. I don't care about your stupid Piper the Pomeranian, but you hear that and then you're like, oh, then every time they look at Piper, they're gonna think Pomeranian. Again, there's like chapters, like don't tell anybody the name. It's nobody's business. I mean, it's not like after you have it and you go, this is Piper, they're gonna go, ooh, I had a dog named Piper. They're gonna shut the fuck up and go, isn't she pretty? She's so pretty. I love little Piper. Yeah. Yeah. So, it was basically that. I felt like that book really was a labor of love to the world. It was the book that I wished I had. There was a girlfriend's guide, but there was nothing about the holes in the sides of the nipples in the girlfriend's guide. So I'm telling you. So I just went straight for the must-know TV.
Well, so you did a service to all womankind. Thank you.
I try.
So much. We're so forever indebted.
I try.
Okay, and then what came after that?
Then I read a bunch of like gifty kind of books. I don't even think they're in print anymore. I wrote a book about little girls for dads and a book about little boys for moms. And I wrote a book for new parents, like everything you'd want to know about new parents, about, for that first baby. Again, the wish I had known, but slightly less profane because it was a more conservative publisher. And then I literally looked at my husband one day and I was like, oh yeah, you. Like, I forgot about you. I've been all like, look at this baby and then the other baby and how the two babies are interacting. And again, I had this, well, how we got the babies. That was also important. And so that was kind of the truth of the matter is we got in a huge fight. My husband and I did one, of course, over the kids, because you fight about kids all the time. Like that has not even waned a little bit. That's pretty much the only thing we fight over. But we'd gotten a huge fight because, well, I'll tell you because he's not here, because he was being a jerk and I was totally right and he wouldn't admit that he was wrong. So we got in this huge fight and I threw a cup at his head and like a cup of ice, actually. And I didn't like just toss the ice out of it. I actually lobbed the cup and it hit him in the temple and he was standing there with the, like, it was at a fiesta thing and there was like confetti in his hair and I was like, I need to write about this. So I went home and I wrote about that fight and that became my Secrets to Being Happily Married book.
Stemming from glass in the temple.
It was plastic. It wasn't a glass. My God, that's like Montel Williams. It was plastic. It was a party. It wasn't like a solo cup. It was a
Pull it back. Okay, good. Cool. And that's which one was that? What's the name of it?
That was the really long titled one. That was If It Was Easy, They'd Call the Whole Damn Thing a Honeymoon.
Yeah, there we go.
And so from that, I did the TED Talk, which which was a total fluke. That was, I knew the organizers of this particular event and I went to apply to attend it, which you have to do, right? You have to prove not that you're good enough to be on the stage, but that actually you're good enough to sit and
be in the audience.
And so they had asked me they didn't ask me, the form asked, it was nothing personal, list a couple of links where we can learn more about you. And one of them was that book. And one of them was I did a little movie trailer for that book, which is kind of funny. That's on my website. If you want to check that out. And they actually called me and they said, we think you should apply to speak. And I did what I always do, which was, oh, no. I'm a sit down comedian. I don't really want to get up on the stage. I get all sweaty and my lip, does this thing. And they said, you should just try. You're probably not going to get it anyways. So then I was all, I'm so going to get it. I get it so hard. So I did, and I got it. And then that people started seeing it, and they still see it, and now they pay me to talk, which is awesome because my husband would pay me to shut up. So it's
Now, what did your husband think when that second book came out? What was? I mean, he's a big part of all of those like stories and so forth. So, how does he like that being exposed to the world?
Okay, so wait, you're breaking up. I'm sorry, I can't. No, I can hear you perfectly. Well, let me back up. I was a writer when he met me. I wrote about him when we were just dating. I would write about, I did a lot of travel writing. We would go on trips. I would write, when we got in a fight on the side of the road in Hawaii. That was in a magazine because it happened, and you don't want to mess with me. So he knew this going in. And then early in our marriage, I was also an FM radio DJ in our fairly small town. And so not that we fight all the time, but okay, we totally fight. So we'd get in a fight, and I'd like drive to the radio station and be like, "Oh, this is what he did." He's like calling in, and I can see his number on the lighting up on the board. I'm like, "Don't get line 4. Do not get line 4. If he wants to, he can get his own damn radio show if he wants to have his opinion, pal." So he knew what he was getting into. But I will say that the day that book came out, we were in New York together because I was going on the Today Show as on publication day. My publicist had arranged this, and we're in the cab going to the studio, and my sister-in-law, his sister, texts me and says, "We're so excited for you. We're having a viewing party. Dad's coming." And I read this out loud to my husband, and he's like, "Oh my God, my father's gonna know about this book." Like, you didn't mention that? You didn't mention that your wife's an author? She's writing a book about you? And he's like, "My father is going to read Get Your Boner Out of My Ass Crack." And I was like, well, I want to turn this camera around to my favorite little quote here. I have an Annie Lamott quote on my wall that says, "You own everything that's happened to you. Tell your stories. If people wanted you to write more warmly about them, they should have behaved better." Annie Lamott. My stories. It's my ass crack. Yes, it's your boner, but it's my ass crack. I get to tell my story.
Get your boner out of my story.
I'm taking my boner back, all right? You cannot have it.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so he's learned how to deal with it. He has a great sense of humor himself.
He does.
And fortunately,
he does.
And
really
good sport, a real good sport.
No, he is. He's a good sport. I mean, he is my biggest fan. He is my biggest champion. He reads every single thing I write, and even in that whole marriage book, Get Your Boner Out of My Ass Crack, there was one thing, and I can't tell you what it was, but there was one thing that he asked me to take out. It was like a phrase. It wasn't even a whole section or a sentence even. So, of course I did, and then I stuck it back in after he read the. I didn't put it in there. I'm nice.
That's nice, wifey. That's nice.
Yeah, most of the time.
Well, I want to talk a little bit about writing because, well, first of all, I never knew growing up that writing was a profession. Like I didn't know. I guess I didn't really think about how things got written. And I remember the first time I heard somebody say, "Yeah, I want to be a writer." I'm like, what are you going to do?
Wait tables somewhere.
But like, how do you decide it's going to be a writer? How old were you when you knew you were going to be a writer?
I was submitting stories to Highlights magazine as early as about 7 or 8. I really was. Like really bad poetry, and honest to God, Mel, it was never a matter of if, but when. That and the Publishers Clearinghouse, I was so going to win that. Like I had my S&H Green Stamp catalog where I would pick out all the stuff I was going to buy because I couldn't quite fathom what like $10 million would buy, but like there was some really cool stuff in that little catalog. Sears, oh my God, all the bedding in the Sears catalog. I was just go crazy. I would send these stories off to highlights and like check every single month, and I would just keep sending them. I never got even a thank you for your repeated submissions, Miss McCarthy. Nothing. So, and for whatever reason, I did not let that discourage me. And I do not have low self-esteem, but I say this with a lot of love for my younger, ignorant self. A lot of my success in my life, truly honest to God, can be traced directly back to complete ignorance in so many times. For instance, I'm a guest speaker on the art of writing and magazine writing. How do you get into magazine writing? I've been paid to get up and speak to people about that. And I get up and I say, if you want to write for magazines, you study the magazines inside and out. You get yourself the latest version of the writer's market, and you study the editors, and you study the columns, and you write specifically to their length and their page count, and you understand their front of book terminology. And yet I got my first magazine job by sending in an unsolicited story, because you do that, and having it land on the desk of somebody who had already quit her job, incidentally, but was taking a job at another magazine that she happened to think my voice would be suited for, and did I want to interview. I mean, I would never go out and tell people that's how you get a job, but I was too dumb to know. If people had asked me as an editor, I went on to become a magazine editor for years and years and years. What do you do with unsolicited articles? I would say you don't even open them. You know, your secretary or student opens them. She's like, hey, we didn't ask for that. It goes in the trash. Nobody would ever see it. And yet I'm so glad that I didn't even have the wherewithal to ask if you should do that, because I might not have done it and I wouldn't be here today.
Right. So it's a conglomeration of happy accidents and, but your persistence really too, your ignorance and persistence, because you just kept it
ignorant
up.
and persistent. Yeah. I think that's a really powerful combination that you should work on developing in your lives.
You let everyone out there, you want to be a successful author, please go right ahead. Follow the sage advice.
The other thing, I mean, it's okay, so seriously, if you want to write my advice, and this is the advice that I do give, because this is, yes, I can say I was ignorant. I didn't go about it the way that anyone would advise you. But the one thing I did that all writers should do if they want to be a writer is I wrote. I never stopped writing. I had a job. I graduated with a degree in communications. I was unskilled, inexperienced. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I got a job at an advertising agency. I worked in the traffic department, but I would write little articles on the side. I would write things to go alongside the ads. I would write. When the writing position came open, they gave it to me. And when I got laid off on my 25th birthday and I had to get a job selling advertising space, I wrote for the magazine. I said, I'll write for free. These articles, I'll rewrite for free. Just let me keep writing. And I wrote, and it, led to a lot.
Well, I mean, that is a common story, right? If you're doing something not for the money because you have to do it, right, you love to do it, you're compelled to do it, then that's where your success eventually lies, because you can't help it. You just
so true. I mean, my dad used to say, find a job you love, you'll never work a day in your life. That's the only thing I ever heard. That, and you don't want to work for anybody else. I'm like, well, okay. Hire me. I'm going to hire me. How am I going to pay me? I don't understand how this works. But I figured it out. I haven't worked for anybody for 20 years.
Cool. Well, we are going to talk more about writing and the importance that it is in this new age, this new digital age that we're in, even though it seems like, some people think books are out, magazines are out, and everything because of the internet. And I'm finding that even though I am not a writer, I don't consider myself to be a writer, I find I have to do a lot of writing. And that learning how to write and learning how to write copy and learning how to communicate my ideas has become a major part of getting my messages out there. So what would you recommend for those of us who are not writers but find themselves writing a lot? What would you suggest we do about getting better at that particular craft?
I'm a really bad teacher. You can ask my kids because I'm not a super patient person. I tried tutoring like in college, and I would explain something once and they'd go, I don't get it. Well, sorry. So sorry. Sucks for you because it's really crystal clear. I feel like the digital landscape changed everything. I mean, and I've gone through this whole trajectory, right? So when it first happened, it was content. We need content. Like everybody needed a website and every website needed content and everybody felt like you didn't want to just have this landing page. You wanted to have like these drop-down menus and stuff, and you wanted people to go deep and stay long, and you wanted these pages. It really was like, it'd be like more. There were companies that would get these hundreds of thousands of dollars in venture capital, and they would call me and go, can you write 400 articles in this month? And they had money and they were throwing it at you, and you're like, yes, I can. And nobody cared if it was good. Nobody cared if I'm not even kidding, Mel. It was like this crazy like manifest destiny of the internet. Like, let's go, go west, young man, and populate with diversity. And then everybody looked at these websites and they're like, they fucking suck. Like everything sucks. You can't find anything. It's not saying anything. It's not helping our brand. And everybody kind of went, okay, all right, let's relax. I mean, I don't know if you've done this with your website. I've done it with mine. I've noticed that it's like, okay, I got all these pages that they don't really add anything. And if I'm offering this to people who are taking time out of their day to come to my website, and they're going to get stuck on some page that doesn't benefit me by telling them what I have to offer them, it doesn't really benefit them in their life, why is it there? And, this was, now it's like, oh my God, the statistics, I can't even keep up. I mean, there was something with video alone, and it doesn't even matter. Like I could just make up a number. People upload 400 billion minutes of content to YouTube every minute. It might be 40 billion, it might be 4 trillion, it doesn't matter. It's a number that is meaningless in its, in its hugeness. It's stupid. We can't possibly consume everything the internet has to offer. And yet we watch cat videos all day long. I don't get it. I really don't get it. But you asked a question, see, full circle. And so my advice, yeah, I can do that. I can go way out there, but I can bring myself back. I forgot
the question. Can you refresh my memory?
You wanted to know what my advice would be for people who are finding themselves in the situation where they have to write something and it may not be their best skill. Every writer needs an editor. I still need an editor. Every writer needs an editor. They need somebody to go, you said the same thing, those 3 sentences, 2 of the 3 basically said the same thing. My advice would be, read through it and take out every 3rd sentence, and then take out every 2nd sentence, take out every word and go, do I still get the message across? Then I don't need that. Do you know what I mean? Like you want to be to the point. You want to be, here's what you need, because people, they're going to get off of your website so fast. If you're, everybody knows that person that sends the 5, I was just talking to my daughter about this before I walked in here. This person that we know that will send literally a 5-page email with somewhere buried in there is the request. So do you think you could drive carpool in the morning instead of in the afternoon? Because she's going to have to work late and her husband has to take the car into the shop and he didn't have it. Like, I can drive in the morning. And I usually, like, when I get these, and this person is guilty of this in every instance, no matter what it is, I try to write back. Like, it's a little game I play with myself. Like, how few words can I go, sure. Sometimes I just go, okay.
Yep.
Just K.
K. One letter.
Like K. K. See how easy that was? We're busy. Cut to the chase. That's my advice. Yeah. It took me 30 minutes to say cut to the chase.
I didn't want to bring that to your attention, but that was kind of a long-winded answer to pretty simple question.
Watch.
When I think about writing copy, or when I think, I go, well, part of it has got to sound like it comes from you, right? And that's one thing that I love about your writing, Jenna, is like, as soon as I start reading something you wrote, I can tell that you wrote it.
Yay.
because you got, because it's going to be a very short interview if you keep that up. But I can tell that you wrote it, and because you've got a voice, like you have a certain way that you say things, and so of course it comes across in your writing. You have a certain way that you write things, and sometimes I find people try to write differently than they speak. Right?
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Right?
Yeah. No,
so
this is something I work with my kids every day. They write these papers, and they're 11 and 13. They're just learning. But come on, chop. They'll write something, and there's the easiest fix in the world. I say, read that out loud. Take that paragraph that we're looking at on paper. It's not even that bad on paper. Read that out loud, and they'll go, the way in which I came to this conclusion. Oh, right. I say, I figured this out by, how would you say it? Ask yourself, how would you say it? And they'll say, oh, well, I just say, I figured it out by measuring it. Write that down, hurry, write that down before you forget, say it, talk it out. I mean, you can read your emails out loud and go, yeah, but I sound like a jerk. I wouldn't talk like that.
Yeah, exactly. No, so there you did. You just gave some really, really good advice. Be careful. And
it was quick.
You just taught people something. So just by reading back what it is you've written is going to help you with that editing and actually sounding more like yourself, which is all people, that's what communication is, right? Writing is communication, and it's coming from you, so it should sound like you. It should be you.
Well, and especially when you're not, I won't even say a skilled writer, when you're not an experienced writer, but you might have all those little things in your head, like from your 11th grade English teacher. You don't end a sentence with a preposition. You don't. Like one of my favorite, I wish I could get to my card box right now. One of my favorite cards is these two gals on the front, and the one says, "Where's your birthday party at?" And the other one says, you don't end a sentence with a preposition. And you open it up, and she says, "Where's your birthday party at, bitch?" Right? Because you don't end a sentence in a preposition. That being said, okay, hey, Mel, what's your book about? I see you reading a book. What's your book about? Am I actually going to say to you, about what is the book you're reading? We don't talk like that. Might be proper, but you don't talk like that. If you read that in a book, you'd go, okay, this book sucks. I do not want to read this book. Nobody talks like that. And you'll know.
Yeah.
People know.
Okay, I love that. I love that advice. Thank you. Thank you, Master. So tell us about this latest book, this novel. What was the inspiration?
This one?
Yes, everything.
Okay, so there was one right before this called Pretty Much Screwed that was based on three of my friends went through really ugly divorces. They divorced like the same guy, which was crazy. Not literally the same guy, but like the same narcissistic, angry, and they just had too many good stories. I was like, oh, I got to do something with these. And so that became that. This one, the story is about three estranged sisters who's they're estranged from each other. They're estranged from their mother. Their mother's a very, very unhappy lady, and she dies, and she leaves them some money, but she wants them to do these certain things in order to get it. And this is a little bit awkward for a funny interview, but I have two siblings, and I had a mom who died, but she died very suddenly after I wrote this book. But my sister and brother and I have a very, very, very close relationship. But if you were to track out, so when I was writing this book, I created these characters, and there's an oldest, there's a middle, and a younger. And I didn't mean for them to be my sister, my brother, and I at all, but I very much understand the dynamic of three siblings, and I very much understand what a middle child feels. So I had birth order characteristics in front of me. I actually have like a laminated desktop, and I put it underneath so I could be like, what would Jules do, and what would Lexi do? And each chapter alternated from a different character's perspective. So when I was in Lexi's chapter, I am Lexi. I'm the youngest. I'm a party girl. I'm a fuck up. I'm gonna like do every bad, wrong thing. And it's funny because the book comes out and my brother and sister read it, and my brother's like, am I Lexi? I'm like, are you the total screw up party guy? I don't know. Does that sound anything like you? My sister's like, am I Jules? Am I Jules? You know, the older sister. I'm like, yeah, you put yourself through Duke Medical School, and you know, you're like the holy roller. Yes, I didn't mean for you to be, but you are. And you know, our mom was kind of unhappy. I literally wasn't writing this as the thinly veiled autobiography, but when it came out, it was like, whoa. There's a lot of life imitating art and art imitating life. That being said, like the middle child character in this is the least like me of any of the three. I'm way more the screw up, and I'm totally OCD like the old one, but everybody else is their person. I'm not, I'm everybody. There's a little bit of me in, I mean, there's nothing, you can't make a character, you cannot write a character and have them think something that's never crossed your mind. I don't know how you could do that. Even if, I mean, I have psychotic, crazy characters, and they think shit. I'm like, that's because I just thought of it. You have to. I mean, it's all you. They're all you. I'm every character in every book I write. I am.
So the inspiration for it came because what? And the reason why I'm asking is because I actually have a lot of listeners who are creatives, and they want to get something out, but they are not sure what that should be. And like, so if you want to write a book, is the idea that you want to write a book come first, or the idea for the book, and then you go, oh, that's a book. That's not an article. That's a book.
Right.
Which comes first for you? How do you go about that?
Well, it depends on whether it's fiction or nonfiction. It depends. You know, a lot of times with nonfiction, for nonfiction, you write a proposal, and your proposal is basically your business plan for the book. You know this, right? And so you outline the whole thing. And if you can't come up with 20 chapters of 3,000 words, you know, whatever, it's not a book, it's a magazine article. You have to, you know, you really have to go through that fleshing out. A novel is very different. A novel is a story you want to tell. So the story I wanted to tell with this one was these three siblings that were so far apart, which mine aren't, but I love the sibling dynamic. I love it because, for real, okay, I have a sister who is a very, very religious, super straight-laced, doesn't drink, doesn't smoke, you know, put herself through Duke Medical School and is a super big brain. My brother dropped out of high school when he was 15, moved to the Bahamas, did a lot of drugs, you know, got a GED years later. And, you know, okay, so then you had me. I did graduate from high school. I went to Florida State. I moved to New York. I became a writer. You know, I did some bad things, not everything my brother did, and a hell of a lot more than my sister. And yet, they're my two favorite people on the planet. So we have this really, and when we get together, like nobody can, my brother's crazy. Like if I met him in a bar, I'd be like, dude, that guy's crazy. Like seriously, legit, keep him away. And my sister, I'd go, okay, goody two shoes, have fun. Like we're never gonna have fun together. And the three of us are just like all up in each other's grills because we love each other so much. So I wanted to do something with that. And I threw in the very, very crazy mother. And then I had her die because how were these three going to deal with that? And how was their relationship going to change because of that? And that literally came from my dad died before my mom. And I remember being like, oh my God, I feel so bad for only children. I feel so bad for only children in the world. It never even occurred to me before, like only children, oh my God, you get all the attention. And, you know, your parents never say, sorry, we have to go to your sister's, you know, whatever, volleyball game. You do whatever you want. And I'm like, I could not have survived my dad's death without my brother and sister. And I couldn't have been able to bear the thought of keeping him alive on my own without their memories and without their, you know, what they bring to that. So that was what that was. That was my labor of love. That's my love letter to my brother and sister.
Aw, that's really sweet. And you found a way to make it, of course, entertaining and, you know, readable. Because a lot of people, well, I got to say, a lot of people have an impulse to write something like that because it's therapeutic for them, but it's not necessarily for everyone else to be reading.
Oh, yeah, if it's not fun, I mean, I don't want to write it. And I'm like 70% through the novel I'm writing now, which I say this all the time, like no offense to my other books, but I love this one the best. And it started with something that happened to a friend of mine. And then I made it. So if anybody out there, if you're interested in writing, especially fiction, the question that you ask yourself at every turn is what if, right? So I had this story. I had this thing that happened to my girlfriend, and I don't want to spoil it because you don't find it out till later in the book. But you say, okay, let's just say, what if you found out you had 3 months to live? That's not what happened because I only write funny books. Okay, what if? Okay, so that's your first question you ask yourself. So you're going to start writing that, and then you say, then what if you found out that right before you die, you're going to get this huge inheritance? Okay, and then what if you found out that there was somebody that was trying to steal it from the person who's going to give it to you? So you just keep throwing wrenches into the machine. And then what if you meet somebody who's working on the cure? I'm literally making this up as I go along, right? Somebody who's working on the cure for this incurable disease you have. And what if he's the guy that's actually trying to steal the inheritance so that he can develop so how convoluted can you make it where it still is slightly believable, fun to read, and has some big, awesome payoff at the end that's not too Disney, but leaves you feeling good about your life. Good luck with that.
Well, thank you. You don't mind, I took some notes on that. It sounds like an awesome story, actually. But really, very few people have the luxury of writing fiction, where they paid for it. You get, you have publishers, you've already been published, so you have people who offer you money before anything's even written, right?
I do. Although I will say, I mean, not to bite any hand that feeds me, remember the Manifest Destiny example I gave you of the interweb and what happened to the magazine publishing and the content publishing world? There's a very similar shift happening right now, as I can see, in the book publishing world, because it used to be like this was a badge of honor. Like it's expensive to put out a book. Like let's say they give me $50,000 to write this book. That's just the tip of the iceberg from the publisher standpoint, right? They have offices and editors, and they have to get the paper, and they have to have it printed, and they have to have it edited, and they have to have this laid out. And this is not a fleeting endeavor. This takes months and trial and error and horrible, horrible, ugly things before you get to something that 9 people can go, I don't hate it. I don't hate it. Not like winner. Woo, we got 6 people don't hate this. So it used to be you were somebody if you had a book. Now, if you have a book, you have an Amazon login. You have an Amazon login, you can have a book. It's called Create Space. You can have a book today. You could literally take some paper you wrote for 10th grade English class and save it as a PDF and drop it in and have somebody design a cover that you don't hate, and you could sell it on Amazon for 50 cents. You're an author. You're an author. So there's no cachet to it anymore. And this is good and it's bad, right? For authors, it's really bad, because now when it used to be there were 100 new books a year that you were competing against, I'm competing against 9 million. Like literally anybody and their brother who wants to throw something up on Amazon. How do I get found? How do I get seen? And people think, oh, well, you got a publisher. I have HarperCollins. I have Random House. I have the biggest publishers in the world. And it's still, there's all that noise affects everyone. It affects everyone. So, you kind of hope as an author that I was going to use a farming metaphor, something about wheat and chaff and separating, but I forget what it is. But you'll somehow stand out. But it's like everybody knows a musician, right? Everybody knows a musician that you hear them play and you're like, why are you not at the Grammys? Why? You're better than all of them. You're better than all of them. How do you get found? How do you get heard? How do you keep plugging. Having a publisher doesn't magically solve all of your problems. And I'll tell you what, when somebody gives you money to write a book, they're not just being nice. Their goal is they're going to make back that money times infinity. So if they pay me $50,000 to write this book, that basically means I have to sell roughly 50,000 copies so for them to get their money back and for me to start earning royalties on top of that advance. So if I only sell 5,000 copies, they hate me. Like, they hate me. And then I go, oh, but I have another idea. This was even better.
I have another idea.
They're going to be like, good luck with that. Like, good luck. Find some other publisher, because now we're in the hole. We don't like you. You did nothing to help this sell. And I'm like, I like stayed in shitty hotels and signed books in the back of dusty Barnes and Nobles. What do you mean I didn't do anything? Like, you know, you just never know if it's a hit. So it's hard. Why am I doing this again?
And that is actually why it's really important that all of us be doing something that we love, and we're not doing it just for the money or the fame, because you might not get either of those things. Right. But it hasn't been a waste of time if it's something that you're compelled and called to do.
Exactly.
So that's it for everything that we're doing, and that's why we want to stay focused on what is our heart calling us to do? What is it we have to do? Even if we weren't getting paid to do it, we would do it anyway. What is that one thing? And it ends up being our gift to the world. So Jenna, I want to thank
you. Drinking wine.
Well, good. We're going to do that soon. Okay. Thank you so much for being with me today, because it is the end of our time. Can you believe how fast this goes by?
I can talk a lot.
So fast. I know. So let's get together soon so you can do more of that. Because I always
thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for helping the rest of us, be more inspired to follow our dreams too. Thanks, Jenna. Bye. Living in a lonely world.